Park is playing the Red Devotion deck Splash White, very similar to the list that James Gates came in second with at the SCG Open in Los Angeles. It's basically a mono red deck touching white for Chain of the Rocks.
So we are underway here. You got to go, excuse me, in the Zorius Guild Gate. I'm used to seeing Golgari Guild Gate. And I'm playing there from Wilson. Park going to start off with a Burning Tree Emissary, triggering going to go on the stack. But this isn't a deck that really abuses the trigger on Burning Tree Emissary very well. You see an Essence Scatter there in Wilson's hand, so I think it's considering countering this spell, actually. I think, personally, I think this is going to be a pretty tough matchup here for Park in the Red-White Devotion deck.
Yeah, the payoffs for the, we're going to see in the turn cycle the Zorius Charm. The payoffs for the mono-red Devotion deck still just get swept away by removal spells and sweepers and counter spells. So
there's a Divination. So Peel 1, Peel 2, going to pass the turn back. Divination has never been so good as it is actually now in Standard. All jokes aside, the card is actually quite good in this format.
Well, usually the card drawing options are much better, but certainly it is still getting up and in front on cards that are a valuable tool for control decks as it's hitting your land drop, so you just work with what you can work with.
And a Supreme Verdict says, get those things out of here, so a little 2-for-1 action.
We've played with Lightning Bolt, we've also played with Shock. It's just, what do the times call for?
Yeah. And now, Park just passes the turn back, and now here is a Jace. See if that's going to go up or down. It's going to go down. Turn over the top 3 for us. Jacob shows a Syncopate, an Elspeth, and a Plains. Elspeth by its lonesome, it looks like here. Not sure if Wilson has any lands in his hand, however.
And this is part of the charm of playing blue-white control in my mind is the stability of your mana. You get to play a lot more basics, and your lands come to play, as a consequence of that, your lands come to play untapped the whole way through, which I think dramatically improves your beatdown matchups.
Inclined to agree. As Park does draw a Temple of Triumph, he does have a Chain of the Rocks in his hand, but Chain of the Rocks just not very good this matchup. I think he might have 2 copies of Chain of the Rocks in his hand. And he's got a Perforos in his hand. I mean, finally just found the 4th land, but Elspeth is going to show up to the party here in a minute, and that's when things get really bad for the Red-White Devotion deck.
Well, I would say that things got bad for Hanul when he lost the roll and had nothing to do on turn 1. That's so important to get off a fast start here. As you see, Jace pick up 2 more cards, including a 6th land.
And now Planeswalker. I'm going to move on up. Well, Elspeth, 3 Soldier Tokens coming to play, and Jacob Wilson comfortably passing the turn back here. Now, Park does have a Stormbreath Dragon in his hand, and he does have the 5th land, so the Hasty Threat will be able to come down and start going after Elspeth, but he's going to have to be able to beat those 6 tokens is the big issue.
And I actually think right there that Park actually needs to go after Jacob and not the Planeswalker, because if Jacob has any answer at all to the dragon, it just doesn't even matter, so you have to try to win the game that way, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue there, as the Supreme Verdict is going to reset everything, is that Elspeth is just the answer to the dragon itself with the minus ability of destroy target creatures for power 4 or greater, so it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
Yeah, I guess he's kind of stuck. I've never seen a Planeswalker so efficient at killing someone while plussing than the new Elspeth.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I actually used to feel that way about old Elspeth for a little while, but because obviously all that one can do is plus, but it feels so much worse to be on the opposing end of of this new Elspeth, as Essence Scatter is going to take care of Perforos.
I've had the experience a lot online of an opponent activating Elspeth, and then you go to your turn and you're like, oh, that wasn't -1? That was +1?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is going to be really rough.
Yeah. So we're basically done here, and I can't come back and win. I mean, it's a great win condition in these control strategies. It's very fairly costed. I remember the first time I saw it, I was wondering why it wasn't 5 mana. If this card was 5 mana, busted, I think is the word that you would use.
Busted.
Yeah, and it's already quite good at 6. So, at 6 mana, as Jace is going to come down, turn over a couple of cards, land versus Verdict. Verdict's going to go to the bottom. Lands will go into Wilson's hand so he can keep doing things. But it would be way too good at 5 mana.
Yes. And the Elspeth certainly does come with some liabilities. 6 mana is a lot. It's not very good against flying creatures, so there's still a way to go after it.
I mean, it's definitely a beatable card.
But it is very powerful.
Yeah.
It's very powerful. Elspeth is another reason, we've been talking a lot about Arrestor versus Imposing Sovereign. The presence of Elspeth in the format is a pretty large reason to want to play Imposing Sovereign. Imposing Sovereign actually gives you some legs against Elspeth, where
Agreed.
Arrestor does very little.
It says Last Breath will take care of that. Ashes Zealot, Burning Emissary tried to get in there, but doesn't have haste just yet. Chain of the Rocks did take care of a creature, but at this point, Park is basically out of cards and really out of relevant action. Last Breath will take care of that, and sure, he's gaining life, but Wilson just wants to get all of his stuff off the board so he can't really do anything and put him into the sleeper hold of Elspeth and Jace, which is basically where we're at this point.
Fair combo.
2 and 3. Detention Sphere, Azorius Charm, and a Plains are what Park has to decide on what to split up. See how much further he wants to go through this.
Yeah.
Let's see. Wilson's going to take the 2 cards. Detention Sphere going to go on the bottom. 4 mana being tapped. Maybe another Jace going to show up here. Yep. Down we go. Turn over a couple cards. Detention Sphere, Mutavault, and a Hallowed Fountain. And it's really interesting to me, just like, this deck's... I don't... Its existence is strange to me, only in the fact that it just seems like Esper would just be so much better, but that doesn't really look to be the case.
Well, the big payouts, like I said, your mana is a ton better, way more stable, and you get to play some copies of Mutavault. And Mutavault's, you know, in my mind, probably the most powerful standard legal card. So
wow, more so than Thoughtseize.
Well, the opportunity cost on Mutavault is just much lower.
Sure.
I give it a lot of points for not being a colored spell.
Jay's going to get cash in here. Wilson playing very, very quickly. You can see a couple of lands, 2 islands, and a Hallowed Fountain. I promise he'll take the 2.
Yeah, don't worry about it too much.
Yeah. So Hallowed Fountain and Island are going to go to Wilson's hand. He's going to fire at Mutavault. He's going to get in here for a whole bunch of damage. Up goes Elspeth yet again. 3 more soldiers coming. Surprised we haven't run out of soldier tokens yet. That's actually impressive.
Well, now
we got plenty.
With Elspeth in the format, you got to come. Our team's got to come with a lot.
So the follow-up is just going to discard a couple lands, pass the turn back, sitting pretty. Park going to untap, draw a card. I think that might be his last one that's drawn for this game. And it is. So, Jacob Wilson is going to win game number 1 over Hanul Park. Blue-White Control up a game over Red-White Devotion as we'll move on to the sideboards here. Take a look at what Park can do to turn things around.
Well, he can definitely convert into more of a burn deck here. He has access to 3 copies of Boros Charm and 4 copies of Skullcrack. He has 2 Wear and Tears in the sideboard here, which can provide some utility against Detention Sphere. I wouldn't bring it into myself, but that's another card he has access to. A Mortars, which he doesn't want here. Jacob Wilson not playing Esper again, so no Blood Baron. 2 Anger of the Gods, not really appropriate, and 3 Madcap skills, which I assume is more for green decks than anything else. So I would imagine the Boros Charms and the Skullcracks are going to be coming in for the 4 Chain of the Rocks and 3 Mizzy Mortars that are inefficient here.
Take a look at Wilson's sideboard. Game 1 was already pretty good for him. He's got 2 Fiendslayer Paladins to potentially make things better. He's got 3 copies of Celestial Fair, 3 Gains, say a Ratchet Bomb, another Last Breath to go with his 3 in his main deck, 2 Negates, a Pithing Needle, a Jace Memory deck, and a Glare of Heresy. Now, this isn't really your typical mono red deck. It's actually trying to build a pretty stable board. Something that Wilson wants to do is actually cast Supreme Verdict and Wrath away the board and break up the synergy. So, Fiendslayer Paladin may not be great here.
No, I think Fiendslayer Paladin is much more for really aggressive mono red and potentially mono white strategies, not for a deck. Well, Park's deck is trying to do things, trying to go way over the top. It's not a deck that's going to care about, Jacob, having a good blocker, picking up 2 life here or there. That's not the type of game that Park's worried about. So I don't think Fiendslayer Paladin's appropriate here. And the counter spells are also so good in Jacob's deck, I feel like, in this matchup, that I'd much rather leave up mana to counter things than try to play something like Fiendslayer Paladin.
I do find Negate to be pretty interesting, however, because there are some certainly some spells to be countered here. Hammer of Proforos seems like a pretty good card to be countering. Boros Charm, things like that. So I could see Negate coming in. I do kind of like Last Breath. I don't know if you want a 4th one. Outside of that, though, I mean, Celestial Flare, I guess, could be a thing that he does bring in, but I don't think that's that great, again, because it's not a pure aggressive mono red deck. It's more of, one's trying to build up a huge board and go from there.
Well, I think that pretty much all of the removal spells have a lot of value against the mono red Devotion deck, because it's all about, building up a board and also getting in some damage. So even though Flare isn't, the most efficient thing on the planet, I think every piece of removal is valuable against Park's deck.
Well, we'll see how Wilson does decide to sideboard here. Rather rather skilled blue-white player is Jacob.
And he also needs as many outs as possible to Stormbreath Dragon. Not
That's
that Celestial
true.
Fair
That's true.
answers it 100% of the time, but if he's backing it up with other removal spells, other sweepers, what have you, then he can cover himself against that.
Yeah.
That's kind of the one card that Park has access to that can punk Jacob out of a game he was otherwise winning. I suppose now in the post-board games that Boros Charm and Skullcracker also can be categorized that way, but with the exception of those cards, the things that Park's doing are pretty anemic in the matchup. Jacob's just counterspells and spot removal, and Planeswalker should be enough to contain most of the stuff. He's just got to cover himself against Stormbreath Dragon.
All right, well, if you guys are just joining us in round number 5 here, Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan, Star City Games Open Series here in Oakland at SCG Live, hashtag SCGOAK for your tweets. We'll be here all day long as we make our way through these handful of rounds in Standard, along with our first elimination round. We'll be doing our quarterfinals this evening and giving away 3 months of premium, along with maybe a little bit of merchandise this weekend.
Ooh, I didn't hear about this.
The fine people of Twitch, which you guys are probably watching this on their website. We got some shirts to give away.
Yeah, they are based up here in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
I know you stopped by the office
I
yesterday.
was in the Twitch office in San Francisco. They are in the financial district down there. Ben Schwartz actually works for them as a programmer and a developer. So I got to take a tour around the office and meet some people and have a good time. It's pretty sweet up there.
Yep.
I'm a big fan. So Ben pulled some strings, got some shirts for us to give away during our premium giveaway. So we'll be doing that today during all of our giveaways this weekend, during the quarterfinals, semifinals for 6 months, giving away one of the finals, 12 months of premium, just like we do every other weekend. We're just adding some fun Twitch shirts. So big shout out to Ben Schwartz and all the awesome people at Twitch for giving us some shirts to be able to do that. Big things moving at Twitch TV.
Yes.
Big things moving. I got to take some pictures. Everybody was there really cool. You know, they had some computers to be able to game after work. There was a good Street Fighter party last night, too. It was a lot of fun to watch.
I will say that their booth at PAX this year was unreasonably loud. It caused me some... So they're not in my... they're not... I'm not saying they're not in my good graces. I'm just saying.
Turn down the noise.
Turn down the noise.
Get off your lawn.
Yes,
yep.
Exactly. It appears that Park has kept a 1-lander on the play here and is now discarding. So
yeah, it looks like he's got a hand of like Ash Zealot. I think he has like 2 Ash Zealots and a Burning Tree Emissary. And he drew a Madcap skill, so I don't think he's drawn. Yeah, he hasn't drawn a land.
Yeah.
So it looks like he tried to sideboard into a much more aggressive approach to pressure Wilson and kept the sketchy 1-lander and wasn't able to get there.
Yeah, I think the problem that I have with keeping these hands from Park is that he actually has lands that don't even allow – if his deck was 24 mountains, let's say, maybe there's an argument. I think that hand's still probably not very good. But when he has a Guildgate, 4 temples, and 4 Nykthoses that still don't allow him to play anything on the second turn, I just think a hand like that is just not acceptable.
Well, the second mountain does roll off the top, and Ash Zealot is going to have its last breath. As Park will move up to 24, Wilson going to untap very quickly, draw a card. Revelation was to draw, plays an island, and probably just passing the turn back here. This is obviously the exact way that that Jacob would want the game to go. Sacred Frontier off the top here for Park, so he's starting to find some lands. The question is, are the cards that he has in his hand, are those good enough to actually be able to play here? There's a Burning Tree Emissary.
See if this warrants any response. Wilson has Supreme Verdict in hand, so I'm pretty sure he'll allow Park to take a turn like this.
See a Syncopate there as well. The Ash Zealot's going to come in. Wilson going to go down to 18, and he will cast a Revelation for 2. Just a little baby one. Going to gain that 2 life back, draw 2 cards, quickly untap, take a draw step for his turn. And we'll see what he wants to do this turn. There's a land. It is pretty nice to be able to play a lot of basics, isn't it?
Yes.
Basics are underrated.
Very much so. Especially for control decks.
Yeah. Having lands that do come into play untapped is just great. Now here's a Hammer Perforos. I think that's going to buy a Syncopate for 1, yeah. So that's a perfect turn, obviously, for Jacob. Clears everything up. Park uses all of his mana for the turn. Counters the spell with a Syncopate, so he doesn't have to hold a bunch of mana up for that. Now Elspeth is going to come down, and it's going to be a kind of a redux of game 1.
This is as easy as it gets.
Yeah. It really, really is. Reckoner is the draw here for Park. So that's going to come into play. I think Wilson has a detention sphere in his hand already to take care of that. I think he just drew a Swift. That can't be Swift Justice. My eyes are deceiving me.
And I think that's a Celestial Flare.
The Celestial Flare. I was like, yeah, there's no way that's Swift Justice. What is wrong with me? Yeah, okay, so Celestial Flare is going to take care of that.
Actually, see a Swift Justice before.
Yeah. That's what you do. What is he doing? Passing the turn back after take care of the Reckoner, does Wilson. And I just don't know if there. I mean, there's a couple of madcap skills over there. I think there's some Mizium Mortars hanging out. But, you know, this is still, it's much like game one, where once Elspeth comes down and the board is even or clear, as it has been both times, there's just really no coming back for the Red-White Devotion deck.
You need flyers or you need burn.
Yeah.
That's it.
And your opponent needs to be lower than 20.
Yes.
And here's a Temple of Triumph. Take a look at the top card. Is it a Bonfire of the Damned? Passing the turn back. If it were a Bonfire of the Damned, could he win?
No, because he's facing lethal this
turn. Yes,
turn.
because he is facing lethal. So Jacob Wilson is going to win this match over Hanul Park. Blue-White Control defeats Red-White Devotion 2-0. Jacob Wilson, who has won an Open Series, has won a Grand Prix. He's 5-0.
And, you know, he's definitely the Bay Area is, you know, most loudly associated, obviously, with Team Channel Fireball.
Yep.
And all, you know, Luis Scott Vargas and Josh Harlane and a lot of those names.